The Shark Deck.
Richard Belzer has passed away age 78. Richard passed away Sunday at his home in southwest France. A longtime friend of the actor, writer Bill Sheft, said Belzer had a lot of health issues, and his last words were, "F you, mother effer." Many fans know Belzer from his role as John Munch on the TV shows Homicide and then later on Law & Order SVU. I know I was familiar with Belzer from hearing him on The Howard Stern Show. Back in 2016, TV producer Barry Levinson recalled listening to Belzer on The Howard Stern Show and liking him for the character of John Munch. Levinson said, "We were looking at some other actors, and when I heard him, I said, why don't we find out about Richard Belzer? I like the rhythm of the way he talks, and that's how it happened." Belzer played Munch on all 7 seasons of Homicide. That show ended in 1999. Belzer said, "When Homicide was canceled, I was in France with my wife. She said, let's open a bottle of champagne and toast. You did this character for 7 years. Then I remembered that Benjamin Bratt was leaving Law & Order, and I called my manager and said, call Dick Wolf. Maybe Munch could become Briscoe's partner." That didn't work out, but as they developed Law & Order SVU, John Munch was on the show. He played the character for 14 more seasons. The character announced his retirement from the NYPD in 2014. Belzer also showed up as John Munch on a 1997 episode of The X-Files. Belzer, as a comedian, started doing gigs at Catch a Rising Star in New York. He performed on the National Lampoon Radio Hour alongside Chevy Chase, John Belushi, Gilda Radner, Bill Murray, and Harold Ramis. When Lorne Michaels started SNL in 1975, he tapped Richard Belzer to be the warm-up comedian for the audience. In 1989, Belzer said it was thrilling in those days to be part of that because regardless of what anyone said, a lot of people didn't know how that was going to be accepted. This was like giving the kids the key to the store to have those anti-establishment people have a TV show on a network. So they asked me to do some sketches and do the warm-ups. I just kind of did what I did in nightclubs. I talked to the audience. I did some of my material. I tried to improvise and ad-lib as much as I could, and it was fascinating doing that in a television studio, not in a nightclub. Belzer hosted a show on Lifetime in 1985 called Hot Properties. His guests included Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Hulk Hogan put Belzer in a front chin lock, says The Hollywood Reporter, knocking Belzer unconscious, then releasing him to the floor. Belzer told Roy Firestone in 1990, "He came very close to killing me. I was told by a sports medicine expert that if I had fallen a few inches either way, I could have been crippled for life. I could have been dead." Belzer sued Hulk Hogan, Mr. T, Vince McMahon, and what was then called the World Wrestling Federation for $5 million. Reportedly, they settled for $400,000, which Belzer said he used for a down payment on his house in France. Much thanks to The Hollywood Reporter, from where I cribbed a lot of that. Reactions on Twitter. Lorraine Newman tweeted, "I'm so sad to hear of Richard Belzer's passing. Love this guy so much. He was one of my first friends when I got to New York to do SNL. We used to go out to dinner every week at Sheepshead Bay for lobster. One of the funniest people ever, a master at crowd work." Richard Lewis wrote, "Old pals are disappearing. Belzer passed away today. Love to his family. In happier times, this is us a few days before selling out Town Hall with an accompanying picture." Sam Morrill tweeted, "I loved how genuine, funny, and compassionate a performance Richard Belzer gave as Detective Munch, a classic New York character. Also read that his last words were, 'F you, mother effer,' a pretty badass way to go. R.I.P. Mark Maron, Richard Belzer died. He was an original, one of the greats, babe. I love the guy. R.I.P. Bill Burr, a simple R.I.P. Richard Belzer. Patton Oswalt, gosh darn it, clean that up. R.I.P. Richard Belzer. I just always thought he'd be around because it seemed like he always was a true original." George Wallace, 1976 at Catch a Rising Star. "I was called onto a stage for the first time by Richard Belzer. Farewell, love you forever." Eric Idle, "I always adored him. As a starving comedian out on the fringes, he would come to my dressing room whenever I hosted SNL in the 70s and eat all the cheese and fruit plates. A very funny and dear man." Richard Belzer has passed away at age 78. Did you hear about the border collie who recycles trash when he's out on his walks? Or how about the bear that stole someone's Chick-fil-A, but good news, left the salad behind? Hi, I'm Johnny Mac, host of 5 Good News Stories. Don't worry, I have stories about humans too, like there's a woman who makes a living because she looks like Jim Carrey. It's my podcast. It's 5 Good News Stories. 5 Good News Stories, the number 5 Good News Stories, twice a week. 5 Good News Stories. Oh, and Shamrock Shakes are back too. Good news. 5 Good News Stories, wherever you get your shows.